Exposed, the bone-chilling secrets of how prehistoric humans hunted for food in one terrifying day. Maya had always loved history, but that autumn day in Eldridge turned out to be more horrific than any lesson she'd ever taught. The vibrant yellows and reds of the leaves seemed to dance mockingly in the crisp air. But beneath that surface beauty lay an unsettling energy, the creeping feeling of being watched, of shadows lurking just out of reach. She had planned to take a moment for peace, to collect her weary thoughts as a single mother and teacher, but the silence of the woods felt like a cover for something deeper. It wasn't long before she stumbled upon it, an intricately carved bone half buried in the earth. The moment her fingers brushed against its surface, a jolt shot through her, colder than the October wind. "What was this?" she murmured, her heart racing. Curiosity clashed with primal fear as she imagined the ancient hands that might have crafted it, perhaps in a ritual of survival. The air thickened around her, and suddenly, Eldridge's playful autumn charm transformed into something sinister. Something unseen stirred just beyond the trees, awakening a terror long buried, the townsfolk noticed too. Wildlife began to vanish, small creatures that once flocked the woods now absent, replaced by a silence that felt haunting. The children of her class spoke in hushed whispers about strange figures appearing at dusk, flickers of shadows that darted away when eyes turned. Neighborhoods that had once flourished with laughter now echoed with fearful glances and murmured rumors of a curse. Maya felt a tightness in her chest. She was losing not just her community, but also the very essence of her life. As she confided in Tom, her neighbor with broad shoulders and a face hardened by years of service, she found an ally. He was skeptical at first, but listening to her uneasy tales sparked a protective instinct buried beneath his tough exterior. As they delved into the town's past, they faced the haunting histories, the desperation of ancient tribes, and the dark choices they made to survive. Each finding plunged them deeper into the heart of Eldridge's twisted legacy. Before we continue, I need to tell you something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to their system and many people are missing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and select all notifications so you don't miss future videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. As they pushed forward, a gut-wrenching realization hit Maya. This bone was not just an artifact, it was linked to a choice made long ago, a decision demanding sacrifice. The atmosphere grew electric, the very fabric of their community fraying as neighbors eyed each other with suspicion. Maya was filled with dread as she faced the possibility that the cost of saving Eldridge might require the unthinkable, her own child. Fear gnawed at her heart. Could she sacrifice her love for the greater good? As shadows loomed from every corner, she felt the walls closing around her. With the chilling memories of the past spilling into their lives, one question echoed in her mind: what price would they pay to shield their future from the horrors of history? The darkness was descending, and the decisions of the past were about to collide with their present. Maya awoke drenched in sweat, her heart hammering against her ribs. The dark shadows of her dream lingered, but it was the bone that haunted her waking hours. The thought that it was a key to their survival or their doom choked her with dread. Outside, the world appeared unchanged, but she felt the ominous shift in the air. As day broke, the once vivid colors of autumn now seemed dulled. Nothing was as it seems, a quiet fear wrapped around her like a heavy cloak. Was it just her imagination, or had the trees shifted slightly closer together, their branches like fingers closing in? She pulled herself from the fog of sleep, vowing not to let fear control her. Today was the day she and Tom would confront the truth. They had arranged to meet at the old town library, a place where the dusty rows of books spoke more of secrets than history. The townsfolk had avoided it for years. Too many tales had started within those walls, tales that often ended in sorrow. Maya rushed through town, the dry leaves crunching underfoot. She could feel eyes on her, a prickling sensation on the back of her neck. When she reached the library, Tom was already waiting, his brow furrowed with concern. "You look like you've seen a ghost," he joked weakly, but worry laced his voice. "I feel like I'm being hunted, Tom." We need to find out what this bone really means. Together, they sank into the musty pages, searching for anything that could unlock the mystery. Ancient texts discuss tribal rituals, sacrifices made to appease the spirits of the land. As Maya read tales of blood and desperation, her stomach twisted. She could almost feel the weight of their decisions pressing down on her. The clock ticked loudly, marking each moment as they delved deeper. Suddenly, Tom froze, his finger pressing down on a passage that had sent shivers racing down his spine. Maya, look. It says here that one of the tribes believed hunting was a sacred act, requiring a tribute that would ensure abundance in return. If the animal spirits were angered, they would demand a sacrifice. Maya's breath caught in her throat. The implications of those words curled inside her mind, tightening like a noose. Are you saying, our town is at risk because of a choice made long ago? She felt the tremor of fear, twisting into something more potent. Tom nodded slowly. If we don't honor that practice, well, lives might be at stake. She straightened, determination setting in. We can't let that happen. We have to find a way to break this cycle, to change what was set in motion. But how? The question hung heavy between them. Outside, a piercing shriek cut through the air, a sound that was distinctly human yet haunted, echoing with something sinister. They rushed to the windows just in time to see a dark figure dart between the trees, too swift, too agile to be natural. Eyes widened in horror, they turned to each other, a silent understanding passing between them. In that moment, Maya realized the townspeople were not just afraid of what was lost in the woods, it was what might come for them next. It was time to confront the darkness head-on. Maya, we should tell the others, Tom said, urgency flipping the air around them, but the fear of rejection gnawed at her. What if no one believed them? What if they considered her a fool? Her world turned upside down. No. We need proof. We can't just run around spreading panic. They exchanged knowing glances, aware of the dangers lurking outside. But deep down, she felt the ground shift underfoot. There is something sinister here, and I can't shake the feeling that our children are in danger, Tom said, clutching her arm. Maya inhaled sharply. We need to go back into those woods, she said finally. Tonight. As darkness crept in, its chill wrapping around the town, an unsettling question formed in her mind. What would they find when they next faced the shadows? The weight of their uncertain choices thrummed in the air, and the time for reckoning was drawing close. As the sun dipped below the horizon, an eerie hush settled over the town. Shadows stretched across the ground, elongating the dark shapes of trees and buildings. Maya felt the chill of fear creep into her bones. This was at the moment ahead was filled with both dread and purpose. With a rush of adrenaline, she grabbed Tom's hand, and they stepped into the darkening woods. The trees loomed like sentinels, their gnarled branches twisting above them. Every crunch of dried leaves beneath their feet echoed like thunder in the stillness. Maya's breath came in quick bursts, and her heart raced. What were they about to confront? The stories in the library seemed to pulse in her mind, a chant of impending doom. Maya, wait, Tom whispered, halting her with a firm grip. He scanned the dimly lit path, his face a mask of worry. We need to be careful. Whatever we saw earlier, it could be lurking here now. Just stick close to me, she replied, trying to sound brave even as a tremor of uncertainty coursed through her. They pressed forward, the weight of their mission heavy upon them. As they reached the old clearing where the bone had been found, the air shifted. It felt charged, alive with an ancient energy. A soft rustle in the underbrush sent Maya's heart racing. She tightened her grip on Tom, pulling him closer. What was that? He murmured, eyes wide with fear. I don't know, but I can't shake the feeling we're being watched, Maya replied, her voice barely above a whisper. Suddenly, the underbrush broke apart, and an animal sprang forth, a deer, its eyes wide, its breath steaming in the cold air. It skittered past, almost as if fleeing from something right behind it. Instinctively, they both turned, expecting to see a predator chasing after it, but nothing emerged from the trees. Only silence greeted them. What just Tom started, but his words were cut short by a growl, low and menacing. The sound sent chills down Maya's spine. She felt her instincts screaming at her to run but stood frozen, the weight of the fear anchoring her in place. "They're angry," she finally breathed out, realizing with sickening clarity that the bone was not just a relic. It was a warning. Tom turned to her, eyes wide. "We have to go." But before they could move, the shadows shifted around them, taking on a more defined shape. A figure emerged, hulking and cloaked in darkness. Its form was indistinct, blending seamlessly with the trees. And then Maya saw it. A twisted smile split its visage, teeth sharp and glinting in the fading light. "What do you want?" she asked, her voice shaking. That it stepped closer, and the stench of decay wafted toward them, causing her stomach to lurch. "The cycle must be completed," it whispered, a voice like rustling leaves and cracking twigs. Maya felt panic rise. "What cycle? What do you mean?" But the figure faded back into the darkness, leaving behind a lingering sense of dread that clawed beneath her skin. Tom's hand tightened around hers, his face pale with fear. "Maya, we need to go. Now." Without waiting for her response, he tugged her back toward the path. But just as they turned, a chorus of voices erupted from the woods, unintelligible yet chilling, echoing the very words of the creature. The trees seemed to shift once more, closing in dangerously tight around them. Just when Maya thought they could escape, she heard a child's scream split the air. It was faint but unmistakable. The sound sent a jolt through her body, and she stopped dead in her tracks. "Tom," she whispered, fear lacing her voice. "The children. We have to help them." Tom hesitated, torn between fleeing and standing to fight. "Maya, it's too dangerous." "My daughter," she said, her voice cracking, "we can't leave them. We have to go back." With determination, she pulled away from him and plunged deeper into the trees, led by desperation. The voices grew louder, melding into a chaotic symphony of terror, each whisper a reminder of what was at stake. Would she find the children in time, or would the dark forces of the woods lay claim to them all? The answer loomed ahead, just out of reach. But one thing was certain: whatever blood ties bound them to the past were now snapping under the weight of this night. The suffocating sense of dread washed over her, but still, she pressed on into the abyss, ready to face the unimaginable. What awaited her in that darkness? Could it truly be broken, or was the cycle already set? The shrill cry echoed again, sharper now, slicing through the stillness of the woods. Maya's heart hammered in her chest. Each beat felt desperate, like a countdown to something horrific. She darted forward, adrenaline pumping, dragging Tom along behind her. "Wait!" he cried out, but her fear overpowered any urge to stop. She could almost feel her daughter's presence lurking like a ghost, calling her deeper into the darkness. The ground beneath them was uneven, roots snaked through the earth, nearly tripping her as panic clouded her senses. The voices swirled around, a sinister song that danced through the trees, taunting and beckoning. Help us," they whispered, weaving through the underbrush. "Maya, please." Tom's voice trembled as he struggled to keep up. "This isn't right." As she neared a cluster of trees, she could see flickering lights nestled among the thick branches, a flicker like fireflies but darker, more malevolent. A chilling realization crept in: these weren't lights of safety, they were false beacons, luring her into danger. Maya, Tom's breath hitched, his eyes wide with fear. "We have to turn back." Turning back felt like surrender, and in that moment, Maya's determination flared even hotter. "No. The children need us." She pushed through the last few trees and stumbled into a small clearing. What she saw there made her blood run cold. A group of shadowy figures stood in a loose circle, their backs to her. Flickering flames raged in the center of what looked like an altar, a grotesque arrangement made of bone and twisted branches. "Maya," Tom whispered behind her, his voice barely audible. The figures turned slowly, revealing hollow, sunken faces. They wore tattered clothing, their bodies gaunt and ghost-like, with eyes that reflected the flickering light like black holes. The lead figure stepped forward, a crooked grin splitting its face. It held something small and limp in its arms. Maya felt a scream rise in her throat. "No! What have you done?" she cried, feeling the ground tilt beneath her as horror overtook her. The figure stepped into the firelight. A child, her daughter, wrapped in the rags of the darkness. "No!" Tom shouted, the gut-wrenching terror in his voice cutting through the air. "Maya!" The soft whimper of her daughter sent a wave of rage and anguish crashing over her. She could not let them steal her child. She stepped forward, ready to charge through the darkness that cloaked them. "Stop!" The lead figure raised a skeletal hand, fingers curled like claws. "The child is part of the cycle." "What cycle?" Maya demanded, her voice defiant even as her heart quaked. "Let her go." The figures began to chant, a dreadful rhythm that pulsated in time with Maya's racing heartbeat. The cycle must continue, the offering must be made. Tom, still close at hand, clenched his hands into fists. "Maya, we have to know." "We fight." She interrupted. A wave of courage surged through her, more powerful than the fear that sought to consume her. She wouldn't allow them to enact their twisted ritual. As they began to circle the altar, the joint sum of energy from those shadowy figures crackled in the air, palpable and electric. Maya's instincts screamed for survival, but somewhere beneath it all, a flicker of hope ignited. "Mommy," her daughter's voice emerged from the pile of shadows, fragile yet full of life. Maya's heart soared, but the shadows encroached, the chant intensifying. They needed a plan. In that awful moment, she glimpsed a large stick, sharp and pointed, half buried among the leaves. "Tom, that stick!" she shouted, urgency wrapping around her words. But as she lunged towards it, another scream pierced the night, an ear-splitting, anguished cry that silenced the chants. The shadowy figures flinched, their dark forms vibrating with a furious energy. "Now! We have to end this!" Tom yelled, and together, they lunged toward the altar, ready to fight whatever darkness lay ahead. But seconds before they could strike, the ground trembled, and an even deeper growl erupted from the depths of the woods, pulsating with a dark rage. Maya faltered, her confidence shattering like glass as figures began to vanish, swallowed by the encroaching shadows. The bold resolve melted into dread amid the realization that the true danger lay not just in the gathering ghosts but in the monstrous force awakening beyond them. What lay in the depths of the woods, and could they truly change the cycle before it consumed them all? With a heart pounding wildly, they pressed on, caught between hope and horror. Before Maya could respond to the chaotic whirl of fear and adrenaline, darkness slithered around her ankles, rooted her to the spot. The ground rumbled again, sending tremors through her legs that felt like electric shocks. Tom, still by her side, grabbed her arm, a desperate plea in his eyes. "Maya! We have to run." His voice was laced with urgency, but she couldn't move, couldn't tear her gaze away from her daughter's small form, tangled in the rags of misery. Maya, the whisper was no longer faint. It wrapped around her like ivy, drawing her closer to the altar despite the pulsating danger. The shadows coalesced, solidifying into grotesque figures that seemed to warp and stretch, their hollow eyes glowing with malevolent hunger. Their chanting morphed into a deep, reverberating roar that felt like nails against her skin. The offering must be made. With a deep breath, she broke free of the paralysis. "We will not let you take her," she shouted, the defiance roaring within her, drowning out the fear. Tom flinched at her side. "Maya, if we don't run now, we know. We fight." She felt the stick beneath her feet, a potential weapon strong enough to shatter this illusion. "Maya." The pleading in Tom's voice was nearly a whimper, but she couldn't back down. The lead figure stepped closer, its grin widening, revealing jagged teeth that dripped with shadows. "You cannot change the cycle. It is written in the bones of those who came before you," it hissed, its voice woven with the darkness of the night. Behind the altar, the ground burst forth, and a growling creature emerged from the underbrush, a twisted amalgamation of primal fury. Its eyes glowed, locking onto Maya with a laser-like focus, primal instinct swirling like a storm inside her. The chant intensified, shaking the leaves and rattling Maya's very bones. The earth seemed to pulse beneath her feet, and the growl resonated deep within, summoning something ancient, something instinctual. "Maya, now!" Tom screamed. Together, they sprinted forward, propelled by raw fear and fierce determination. Hands outstretched, they grasped the stick, now a lifeline against mounting terror. "Help us!" The ghostly voices cried out again, echoing terrible sorrow that mirrored Maya's own desperation. The creature growled louder, its breath hot against the back of her neck, urging her to move faster. "Mommy!" The sound broke through the noise, pulling at Maya's heart. She felt her daughter's presence wrapped in soft rhythms of innocence, even as the forces of darkness tugged at it. The altar pulsed with dark energy, and the figures began to emerge again, their malevolence sharpened. "Do you see?" The lead figure croaked, glee dancing across its features. "Your daughter will lead you to your doom." "No!" Maya shouted back, fire igniting in her chest, grounding her. The creature charged forward, lips curled, revealing rows of deadly teeth. In a single movement, she hurled the stick with all her might that it struck true, piercing the shadows of a figure, cleaving the dark energy. The figure erupted, the scream echoing as it disintegrated into mist, blurring the boundaries of the night. The ground shook violently, and the altar trembled, as if the forest itself reacted with outrage. "Maya! We need to leave. Now!" Tom's voice surged through her. The darkness froze, momentarily stunned, as the figures faltered, confusion rippling among them, summoning every ounce of strength. Maya turned to Tom, a fierce resolve set in her eyes. "We will save her," she declared, taking a step forward. But just as she moved, the rhythmic chants shifted to chaos, shadows clawed at her, pulling her back, knotting around her wrists as if the night itself would not let her go. Suddenly, she heard a chilling laughter. The lead figure remained unyielding, lifeless eyes shimmering with malicious delight, taunting her. "You can't save what's already lost." A wicked chill swept over Maya, wrapping itself around her heart. "We'll find a way," she whispered to the trembling form of her daughter. But as they stood together, faces etched in fear and determination, the ground trembled again, and a deeper growl filled the air, not from the shadows, but from a new, unimaginable horror lurking within the woodlands. What had awakened in the darkness? Could they confront not only the mystery of the cycle but an even greater terror that awaited them beyond the light? Maya's grip tightened on Tom's hand. The true nightmare was just beginning. Maya's heart pounded in her chest, echoing the frantic thrum of the earth beneath her. The shadows twisted and churned, their grotesque forms melting into one another, stretching for them as if drawn by an insatiable hunger. Tom pulled her closer, his breath mingling with hers in the damp night air, heavy with the scent of damp earth and fear. "We can't stay here," he urged, urgency clawing at his voice. But in Maya's chest, courage surged like a tide. What if there's a way to break the cycle? She gasped, her mind racing. Memories of her childhood stories about ancient rituals floated up, tales of sacrifices made to appease the forgotten gods. There has to be a reason they want her. A sudden crack, branches splintering underfoot, sent a fresh burst of terror through Maya. The creature roared, and she could almost sense its pulse, vibrating with rage and anticipation, its primal instinct alive in the stillness. Then came another growl, deeper, more resonant, as if it were rising from the very ground itself. The shadows froze, and her thoughts tumbled like stones down a cliff. What kind of horror lurked just beyond the veil of night? Maya. Tom's grip tightened, dragging her backward as they stumbled over a root. "We have to get out, now." But the chanting grew louder, a cacophony that drowned out their pleas. Figures reeled back in confusion, their skeletal forms expectant. For a heartbeat, Maya saw the glint of something metallic reflected in their eyes, a link to the same darkness that encased them. With a sudden burst of clarity, a thought sharpened in her mind. The offering. She pointed to the altar where her daughter remained, a silent witness to this terrifying spectacle. "We need to reverse it," she said, fervor igniting her words. We can't just be the next offering. Maya, if you do that. Tom's face twisted with dread. I have to. If they believe it, we might break their hold. The lead figure snarled, its voice like gravel. You think you can change your fate? You are nothing but pawns. Then we'll play our own game. She stepped closer, adrenaline fueling her resolve. The shadows shifted, unsure, the creature at their back loomed, its hot breath a biting wind on her neck. But Maya's instincts flared. She reached into the shadows, her fingers brushing against the cool earth where the figures stood, and a spark ignited as a surge of strength coursed through her. This offering is not yours to take. As if responding to her defiance, the ground beneath her feet bucked again. The creature lunged, an avalanche of fury aimed straight for her. Maya's heart raced, pounding in rhythm with the thunder of her thoughts. She had to act. Maya! Tom screamed, but she was already moving. She dove forward, grasping at the altar's base as the shadows surged toward her, a feral wave intent on reclaiming what they believed was theirs. In that instant, clarity surged through her, a guttural scream torn from the depths of her being. I offer you my truth. The shadows recoiled, their chants faltering, uncertainty palpable in the air. Tendrils of darkness flickered, weighed down by her declaration. What had she done? The figures hesitated, their grotesque faces contorting into confusion as if they had encountered an unknown power, of force that could offer sacrifice without bloodshed. The atmosphere shifted, the chanting became chaotic. Fight it, Maya! Tom's voice came through, raw with desperation. She could sense the tension around her tightening like a noose, and she fought against it, heart racing. Suddenly, an impossibly loud crack echoed through the trees, slicing through the chaos, a warning, a signal, something beyond her comprehension. Maya froze, her mind spinning. What did that mean? The ground rumbled once more, and as the shadows shivered, a figure began to pull itself from the earth itself. Each second stretched into eternity, filled with uncertainty. What new nightmare was awakening before them? Would they confront this horror together, or would they, too, be consumed by the darkness? As the light flickered, glimmers of hope and dread clashed in a storm of emotion. She felt Tom's grip tighten, their fates intertwined. Beyond this moment, they could either drown in despair or find a flicker of light to escape. But Maya knew one thing: something had to give, and it was about to break loose. What awaited them in the swirling shadow? A chilling wail erupted from the ground, echoing off the trees like a siren's call, filling the air with an unspeakable dread. The shadows recoiled, as if the very essence of fear clawed at them. Maya's heart hammered in her chest, a frantic rhythm that pushed her to the edge of sanity. She felt the ground quake beneath her feet, a violent shudder that mirrored her own panic. What is that? Tom's voice was laced with terror, his grip tightening on her arm as they both stared wide-eyed at the emerging form. From the depths of the earth, a spectral creature began to materialize. Its silhouette twisted and morphed, almost human yet grotesquely warped, like a nightmare made flesh. The shadows parted reluctantly, whispering secrets of ancients long forgotten. Maya's breath hitched as the air thickened with a palpable energy, a mixture of exhaustion and desperation coiling tightly around them. Stay back, she warned, forcing herself to step forward, even as the urge to flee gnawed at her gut. The chanting seemed to escalate at her defiance, intensifying into a frenzied roar. Maya, no. Tom pulled her back. His eyes were wide, reflecting the same fear Maya felt deep within her bones. We can't fight that. But we have to understand it. She yelled over the chaos. The creature's eyes glowed an unnatural shade, swirling pools of fury and hunger that all but screamed for blood. It was as if it pulled energy from the darkness itself, feeding on their fear. The ground shifted, each movement eliciting a shudder from the trees surrounding them, as if the forest were alive and pleading for mercy. The lead figure stepped forward, its elongated limbs twitching. You thought you could defy your fate? It sneered, and the sound vibrated like thunder. You're connected to the darkness now. Your truth is a lie. Gritting her teeth, Maya clutched that flicker of hope deep inside her. No. I've come to reclaim what is mine. Her voice rang out, steadier than she felt. This isn't just about survival, it's about breaking your hold. The words hung in the air, charged with a current that sent ripples through the shadows. For a moment, the figures hesitated, confusion flashing through their grotesque features. It was just a moment, but it was enough. Tom, we need to create something. She shouted, inspiration striking like lightning in her mind. If we can channel their energy, we can turn this against them. Are you insane? He barked back, disbelief reeking from his voice. Do you even know how? Together. Her chest heaved as the urgency clawed at her throat. We can't let them take her. She pointed at the altar, her daughter still bound by their cruel magics. If we can tap their desire for an offering, unexpected laughter erupted from the lead figure, cutting through her. You think you understand? You're nothing but a plaything. Maya could feel the weight of the shadows pressing closer, the hot breath of the creature making her skin prickle. Her gut churned as the echoes of past sacrifices whispered in her ear. Was she truly ready to summon something that even the deepest dark could not contain? Without another word, she closed her eyes, feeling Tom's presence beside her. Their minds joined together, drawing upon instinct, desperation, and the love they had for their child. With a synchronized breath, they unleashed a pulse of raw energy, an offering not of flesh, but of spirit. The shadows recoiled as a brilliant light erupted from within them, blinding and pure. The wretched figures howled in agony, their forms shattering, fracturing against the brilliance, but just as victory seemed within grasp, a piercing scream cut through the night. The newly awakened figure lunged forward, and Maya realized this had unleashed something far beyond their control. Tom! It's coming for us! Panic flooded her voice as she fell back, scrambling to escape the impending doom. With the darkness trembling at their feet, they found themselves caught in a vortex of chaos, the line between hunter and hunted blurring. Maya's heart raced as the entity took aim, its eyes locking onto theirs. Silence falling over everything. What would it demand to set the balance right? Would they be able to rewrite fate, or was this just the beginning of their darkest hour? As the shadows rushed forward once more, their fate hung precariously in the air, trembling on the edge of a knife. The air crackled with energy, almost alive, as if the darkness itself was waiting to strike. Maya stumbled back, dread curling in her gut. All around her, shadows writhed, hungry for chaos, feeding off every ounce of fear that surged through her. Run! Tom screamed. His voice broke through the haze of terror that enveloped her, snapping her back into frantic action. Without a second thought, they turned away from the altar where their daughter was still trapped, helplessly caught in the grips of malevolent forces, but it wasn't just the shadows they were fleeing. The creature, now fully reformed and looming larger than ever, lunged toward them, its maw gaping wide enough to swallow the light whole. A chilling realization struck Maya. It wasn't just anger driving the creature, it was hunger. They darted between the trees, their feet pounding against the forest floor, branches clawing at their clothes like long-fingered specters. Maya glanced over her shoulder, noting the pulsating silhouette chasing them, an amalgamation of malevolence and rage. It was getting closer, its eyes blazing with a sinister hunger that sent shivers down her spine. Where do we go? Tom's breathless voice trembled, panic etched in every line of his face. Anywhere but here. She gasped, trying to mask her own fear. We need to buy time. We need to find the light. He cut in, his voice catching on a mix of desperation and hope. It's always been about the light. A flicker sparked deep within her, reminding her of their earlier plan to counteract the darkness, to harness the energy they had unleashed. Yes. She said, urgency racing through her veins. If we can just reach the clearing where the sun hits right. Tom nodded, and they dashed deeper into the forest, branches whipping their faces as the shadows seemed to grow more frantic behind them. The chanting was rising again, a twisted symphony fueling the creature's chase. Maya felt the sinister pull of the darkness trying to loop around her ankles, clawing for a grasp, begging her to fall. They broke through the trees into a moonlit clearing. The bright, silvery light spilled onto the ground, a beacon of hope amidst the chaos. Maya felt the warmth of it touch her skin, filling her with a determination that dulled the sharp edge of her fear. "Stand together!" Tom shouted, grabbing her hand with a fierce grip. "We need to channel it again." But before they could center themselves, the creature burst into the clearing, shrieking like a banshee. The sound rippled through Maya's soul, freezing her in place. But this time, she fought back. "Tom, focus!" she implored, pulling herself together, feeling the pulse of the moonlight mingling with their determination. They turned, their back to the creature, arms outstretched toward the cacophony of shadows. "You have no power here," Maya cried, trying to infuse her voice with more strength than she felt. "We claim the light, not the darkness." As if responding to her words, a burst of energy surged between them. The light intensified, shimmering in defiance of the shadows. The air grew thick, swirling around them like an electric storm. The creature recoiled, its twisted mouth quivering as if it could feel the power wrestling against it. Maya's heart surged. Maybe this time, they could turn the tide. But the ground shook violently beneath them, and cracks began to split the earth as the balance of power shifted in unexpected ways. "Hold on!" Tom shouted, but as soon as the words fell from his lips, the shadows erupted, swirling violently, consuming everything in their path. The force of darkness pushed against the light, threatening to obliterate everything they had fought for. The struggle was suffocating, and Maya felt the world around her dim as the darkness pressed in. Just when she thought she saw a glimmer of victory, the ground beneath them split wide open. "Tom!" she screamed as she felt the earth giving way, pulling her down into the abyss. The terrifying reality emerged on the fringes of her mind. Would they survive the darkness, or had they finally unleashed the ultimate terror? As the shadows clawed for them, a haunting laughter echoed all around, the mocking embrace of ancient horrors awakening once more. And in that moment, with the world spinning into madness, a single thought sliced through the chaos: nothing could be worse than what lay below, what truly lurked in the darkness. Plunged into an all-consuming blackness, Maya felt weightless. The abyss embraced her, pulling her down, deeper and deeper. Fear gripped her heart, squeezing it relentlessly. Was there even a bottom? Her breaths came in frantic gasps, a mix of terror and disbelief. Somewhere above, she could hear Tom's panicked voice calling out to her. But the sound was muffled, as if it was coming from a distant world. Were they separated? No. She couldn't let go of hope. Not now. That as she plunged further, the darkness shifted. It curled and twisted, swirling around her like hungry tendrils, whispering sinister promises. "You'll never escape," it taunted, its voice a low, chilling murmur that seeped into her mind. "Join us." "No!" she screamed, fighting against the shifting shadows, picturing their daughter, their bright light. She clung to that thought like a lifeline. "We won't let you take her." Suddenly, the pull of the darkness released its grip. Maya gasped as she fell onto solid ground, her body colliding with something soft. While disoriented, she looked up, blinking against the sudden glint of light. It flickered like a dying star, illuminating a room carved out of rock that had been hollowed over centuries. To her right, shadows danced, writhing as though alive, but the glow of the light pushed them back. It was both beautiful and terrifying. She slowly pushed herself up, her breath catching in her throat as she scanned the chamber. "Tom!" "Maya!" His voice filled the silence, more of a growl than a shout. He emerged from the shadows, his face smeared with dirt, eyes wild with desperation. Relief crashed over her like a wave. "You're here. Are you okay?" she asked, brushing dirt from his cheek. "I'm fine, but we have to move. We need to find a way out." "What about there's no time?" "They're coming." His eyes darted to the edges of the room, glancing back at the shadows that continued to pulse and churn closer. "I can feel their presence intensifying." We need to find the source of that light. It might be our only chance. With a hurried nod, they stumbled deeper into the rocky cave. Each step sent a shiver through Maya, the shadows flicking like tongues hoping to wrap around them. What was in the darkness? Then she caught a glimpse of movement ahead, a faint glow, pulsing rhythmically in the distance. It looked like an opening, promising an escape. There! She cried, but as they rushed toward it, the ground trembled beneath them. A howling echoed, reverberating through the cavern like a furious storm. Tom grabbed her arm just as the shadows exploded from the corners, taking form as twisted phantoms, their screams a mix of rage and hunger. "Run!" he shouted, and they took off, feet pounding against stone, the cries of the shadows growing closer. Maya's heart pounded in sync with the thunderous echoes, both primal and haunting. They dashed toward the light, the silhouettes reaching out like gnarled hands, pulling her back. She could feel them scraping her heels, their cold breath on her neck. No. Not today. Maya pushed herself harder. She could see it now, the source was almost within reach. A glowing orb nestled in the rock, vibrant and pulsating, almost alive. So close, but then, there was a sudden roar, primal and unyielding. The shadows lunged forward, engulfing them in a wave of despair. Maya screamed as tendrils wrapped around her waist, dragging her backward. "Tom!" she cried out, fighting the darkness that threatened to swallow her whole. "I can't hold on." And just like that, chaos erupted. As the shadows tightened their grip, the orb flickered violently, sending out waves of light, cracking like thunder. Energy surged, intertwining with desperation, pulsing through every fiber of her being and over Tom's as they desperately grasped each other's hands. The light shone fiercely, pushing back against the encroaching shadows. Would it be enough? The room filled with flames of radiant energy, but it was uncertain how long they could withstand the overwhelming darkness. Was this merely a moment of reprieve, or the final standoff? The shadows twisted, writhing in agony. And just as the light began to expand, drowning everything in brilliance, Maya noticed something, a figure emerging from the depths of darkness. Who is that? She whispered, fear clawing at her throat as wide eyes met the creature's horrifying gaze. The question hung heavy in the air. Would they find salvation in the light, or was this the threshold to a far greater nightmare? The figure stepped forward, its form becoming clearer. It was neither wholly human nor completely monstrous, an entity caught between two worlds. A familiar face emerged from the shadows, one that made Maya's heart freeze, her own mother, a ghostly version of the woman she had long thought lost. Maya, her mother's voice was haunting, filled with an otherworldly echo. "You are the key." "What do you mean?" Maya gasped, confusion and dread intertwining in her chest. The shadows hissed and trembled as if sensing her hesitation. When the cycle began, it started with sacrifice, but it wasn't always meant to be a curse, her mother explained, reaching out toward Maya with spectral fingers. The darkness feeds on fear and desperation. You have the power to change it, to rewrite the fate of this land. Maya exchanged a frantic look with Tom. "But how?" she shouted, feeling the weight of her daughter's life pressing down on her like a heavy stone. "Embrace the truth of your heart," her mother urged. "Only through love can the cycle be altered. Offer your light to the darkness." Tom, face grim with determination, squeezed her hand tighter. "We'll do it together. We have to trust it. We can't back down now." Gazing into her mother's shimmering eyes, Maya felt the flicker of hope merge with primal fear. Could she really break the cycle without sacrificing her own flesh and blood? The energy from the orb pulsed stronger with every heartbeat, almost alive in its power. The shadows loomed, creeping closer, each hiss and whisper echoing the hunger of the ages. "You can't resist what you are meant to become," the lead figure snarled from the depths, its twisted body exuding a palpable malice that sent shivers racing through Maya's spine. "No. We are more than that." Maya shouted defiantly, her voice rising against the tide of darkness. With newfound clarity surging within her, she turned to Tom. We need to channel the energy of the light together. Our love must dissolve their power. Right. Tom shouted, his resolve solidifying like granite. They clasped hands and faced the glowing orb. Maya felt the warmth seep into her bones, igniting every fiber of her being with purpose. The pain and fear end here. She cried with fervor. We embrace the love that connects us. We sever your hold. A brilliant light erupted from them, intertwining with the glowing orb, sending waves of energy spreading out like a shockwave. The shadows screamed, thrashing violently against the pulse of light. But the creature lunged again, its claws outstretched, teeth bared, desperate to tear them apart. You're just prolonging the inevitable. It howled. Maya's chest tightened, but she pushed through her fear, focusing on her daughter's face. You're wrong. She countered fiercely. Love is the strongest force. It binds us and drives away your darkness. The orb shimmered, vibrating with their shared emotion. The shadows wailed, their haunting voices mixing with the pulse of energy. No. The lead figure screeched as the light swallowed it whole. Suddenly, the cavern shook violently, the shadows recoiling as their power dissipated. Maya's heart raced as she felt the ground tremble beneath her, but she couldn't let go. Not now. Make it stop. Screamed Tom as they struggled against the diminishing darkness. Together. Maya shouted, her resolve solidifying even as fear threatened to explode in her heart. The light erupted in a blinding flash, resonating through the darkness. The shadows shrieked, erupting into wisps of smoke as they were consumed by the radiance. The sound was deafening, like the roar of 1,000 storms. When the echo faded, a hush settled over the cavern. Darkness receded, revealing a landscape both familiar and foreign. Colors returned, vibrant and alive. Maya blinked against the brightness, finding herself back in the woods where she first discovered the bone, now shining under the full moon. Tom collapsed beside her, panting, but relief washed over his face. We did it. We broke the cycle, he gasped, glancing around as if expecting the shadows to come crashing back. But they didn't. The air felt light and free, as if it had been cleansed of its weight. We need to get to the children, Maya gasped, the panic of her daughter's absence jolting back into her consciousness. They surged forward, racing through the woods toward the town. When they broke through the trees, the night sky twinkled brilliantly above, life blooming back into Eldridge. The spectral energy had been replaced with the gentle rustling of leaves, and the cool autumn air felt like the first taste of freedom. The townspeople were gathered in the square, their faces drawn but relieved, eyes scanning the horizon as if expecting the worst. Maya spotted her daughter amid the crowd, unusually calm, gazing up at the sky. With a burst of energy, she ran to her, gathering her up in her arms, holding the child so tight it felt as if they could merge into one. Mama! Her daughter's voice rang like bells, filling the hollow spaces of Maya's heart with warmth. We're safe now, Maya whispered into her hair, tears of relief spilling down her cheeks, but they had a long path ahead. The shadows may have receded, but the legacy of the past would always linger. It was history intertwined with their lives. They'd have to rebuild trust, whisper stories of hope, and share laughter to ensure the darkness never returned. As they embraced, a sense of peace began to settle over the town, thick like a protective blanket. The murmur of life resumed, echoing laughter replaced the whispers of fear. Those dark memories would fade, but their struggles and triumphs would not be forgotten. They now lived on in every heartbeat that resonated through Eldridge. The shadows were not truly gone, they remained lurking just out of sight, waiting to test their resolve again. But together, they could rise against them. Maya took a deep breath, looking up at the stars twinkling down like promises. She felt a flicker of hope, a spark ignited in the knowledge that no matter what darkness loomed, love would always light the way. Now, more than ever, they needed to hold on to that truth. And as she held her daughter close, she resolved to protect the radiant love that had saved them all and turn toward the future with fierce hope. This was their moment to embrace the light, and with hearts united, nothing could take that away. You need to subscribe now to the channel so you don't miss the next exclusive stories. Smash the like button now to feed the algorithm. Flood the comments section with your reactions and theories about the ending. And don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. Show your support now. Let us keep the adventures alive.